You look at the top of the food chain and see yourself. You consider yourself the hunter, the alpha predator. The truth is, evolution has fed you a comforting lie. But your biology tells a much darker story. For millions of years, the night wasn't a time for rest. It was a slaughterhouse. Your night vision is a biological failure. You have no claws, no venom, and you cannot outrun death. To the true monsters of the past, our ancestors were never a threat. They were just an easy meal.
You know that irrational shiver you feel when the lights go out? Or the paranoid need to check if the door is locked? That is not a modern anxiety disorder. It is your cellular memory. It is your DNA remembering a time when closing your eyes meant being eaten alive. Human intelligence wasn't born from genius. It was born from weakness. It was forged in panic. We didn't invent tools to conquer nature. We built them as a desperate shield against the nightmares hunting us in the dark. Today, we will dissect the most brutal turning point in biology. The exact moment the cornered prey weaponized its own terror to subjugate the predators and dominate the world.
For millions of years, the African savanna was a death row, and we were the easiest target. Until 1970, science preferred to comfort our ego. Textbooks suggested our ancestors died in heroic battles. But paleontologist C.K. Brain shattered that biological arrogance. Deep in the Swartkrans caves of South Africa, he dissected the fossil known as SK54, the skull of a young hominid with 2 millimetrically perfect holes at the base of the neck. The biological verdict was devastating. The punctures perfectly matched the fangs of an apex feline predator, like the lethal Dinofelis. We didn't fight on equal terms. The predator struck from behind, in absolute silence. It hunted us in the tree branches while we tried to sleep, carrying our ancestors by the skull the exact way a stray cat carries a rat.
On the ground, the nightmare took another form, the Pachycroqueta, a giant hyena with jaws designed to crush rhinoceros bones. During the night, packs of these monsters patrolled the dark. They raided vulnerable camps, terrorized the tribe, and dragged away anyone left behind. And not even the most basic need forgave the careless. Water was synonymous with ambush. In the watering holes where the tribe needed to drink lurked the Crocodylus anthropophagus, a prehistoric monster whose scientific name literally means human eater. Can you imagine why? That visceral chill you feel today when staring into dark, still waters? It is the trauma of those who knew that quenching their thirst could cost them their lives. Even the sky was a minefield. Colossal eagles cruised the air without a sound, diving like projectiles to snatch our children with 10-centimeter claws, true keratin daggers designed to pierce the skull in a single impact. The Taung Child, a skull discovered in 1924 in the South African plains, changed our understanding of the horrors of evolution. The 3-year-old child didn't fall into a hole. She wasn't attacked by a stealthy feline. Modern studies support the current forensic verdict, which revealed a much darker truth. The damage to the eye sockets and skull of the Taung Child carries the surgical signature of an aerial attack. She didn't fall. She was snatched from the ground by the claws of an ancestral eagle. The South African sky wasn't a peaceful, contemplative roof. It was a lethal hunting ground. Ancestral sleep wasn't restful. It was a state of continuous terror, a tactical vigil. We were not the masters of the earth. We were fragile prisoners, cornered in the dark. Until despair forced biology to forge our first true weapon. Conventional history teaches that man mastered fire to cook meat and build civilization. Evolutionary biology says otherwise. The invention of fire was the most successful panic attack in the history of the planet. To a cornered brain, fire wasn't a primitive kitchen. It was a portable sun. It was our first true fortress. The predators hunting us were biologically perfect. They had claws, brute strength, and vision adapted for the pitch black. But they shared one universal weakness, the instinctive dread of what they cannot comprehend. And no beast comprehends fire. When the first campfire sparked in the savannah's darkness, the power dynamic of the earth flipped in a single night. The flames didn't just repel the Dinofelis and blind the Pachycrocida. They forged, for the very first time in millions of years, a geographical radius of absolute safety, a perimeter the monsters could not cross. The exact same principle applies to our first weapons. The hand axe and the wooden spear were not forged for heroic mammoth hunts. They were created to keep the monsters off our skin. Throwing stones and spears was nature's first ballistic advantage, the ability to kill your nightmare from a distance before its fangs ever touched your neck. This is where the biological magic happens. When the first campfire sparked in the savannah's darkness, the power dynamic of the earth flipped in a single night. Our intelligence didn't evolve while we were running from predators. It flourished when we stopped running. Inside the firelit circle, the tribe no longer had to sacrifice all its mental processing to anticipate imminent death. For the first time, the human prefrontal cortex could relax. It could focus on something beyond immediate survival. Fire gave us the time and the safety necessary to invent language, culture, and technology. Human intelligence is, quite literally, the product of a good night's sleep provided by the campfire. But the terror we felt before the flame ignited remains hard-coded into our source code.
The giant monsters are extinct. The tigers are caged. But your primitive brain doesn't know that. Remember the biology of loneliness. In the Pleistocene, stepping away from the warmth of the fire and the tribe wasn't a lifestyle choice. It wasn't a personality trait. It was an invitation to the Pachycrocida. Isolation was synonymous with imminent slaughter. This is exactly why modern social isolation causes cellular inflammation and deep, chronic physical pain. Your limbic system interprets your empty bedroom on a Sunday night the exact same way it interpreted the dark savannah. It panics. It screams. Return to the tribe, or the predator will get you.
That pit in your stomach in unfamiliar environments. The unexplainable insomnia when you sleep in a bed that isn't yours. The negativity bias that makes you focus on the worst possible tragedy in the news. Your generalized anxiety is not a chemical flaw. It is your biological alarm going off in a world where the real fire no longer exists. You inherited the biology of prey, but placed it inside a safe concrete box. With nothing left to run from, the mind begins to hunt itself. Evolution forged your mind in absolute darkness, under the gaze of beasts designed to shatter bones. And yet, you are here. We are the absolute top of the food chain, not because we were the fastest, not because we were the strongest, but because we were the most cautious, because we were afraid. And that fear is your bloodline's badge of honor. It is the only reason your family tree didn't end in the stomach of a primitive feline. We are the unbeatable children of primates who knew how to fear.